Welcome to Created Healthy. I'm Dawn Combs. It's a common idea that God gave us everything we need in nature, but do we believe it enough to walk that out in truth? Often the very same people who say this go looking for answers on how to use food and medicine from man-made sources. Everything man creates comes with a user's manual. Why would God be any different? I challenge you to join me in seeking revelation about our body, mind, soul, and spirit health by digging into His written word and in practicing pure science in the visible world of His creation.
I finished up in Luke yesterday, and my devotional has me jumping into Psalms. I love the Psalms, and I think they're a great follow-up to yesterday's discussion about the essence of belief and how we make it up from experiences, emotions, and also thought and what we have read and learned, and an intellectual work. So we're in Psalms 42 through 47, and the Psalms are music. They're poetry. They're creative expression and emotion. And I love that we have that full range throughout the Bible. We have these different parts of who we are, what our essence is made up in the Bible. So there is going to be a main point that I want to talk about today, but I wanted to call out a couple points out of each of these Psalms. In 42, we have this beautiful imagery of being thirsty for God, that our soul is thirsting for God. And I love this because it doesn't say hungry. If we look up how long we can go without food, we can go quite a long while without eating. But we can only go 3 days. I think it's actually like 3 weeks that we can go without eating. But 3 days is all we can go without drinking. And I love that this is, my soul is thirsty. I am thirsting for God because it is such a more immediate need. And I can imagine that in my brain, what that feels like. 45 is, I loved because it was talking about this tension between the soul and the mind. And the writer of this psalm is talking about that the soul was struggling where the brain knows that God will be there for them. So intellectually and historically, the writer knows that God will be there for them. They can look through the history, they can think all they want, but yet your soul is troubled. And I love that this song is capturing that tension that a lot of us have felt at different times in our lives. The struggle there of trying to get your soul and your heart to calm down enough and to believe, to follow through in the belief. We don't always have all of our parts going in the same direction, and sometimes we need to encourage one or many parts to get on board with what we know, what we really know. Psalm 46 is what I wanted to focus on, and it was written by the sons of Korah. Now, Korah, if you remember all the way back, was the man who led a rebellion, or tried to lead a rebellion against Moses. He was in the Levite tribe, so he had privileges as a priest, or as somebody who was ministering spiritually to the nation of Israel. But he didn't like how things were being done. So he gathered up 250 people or men and began to threaten a rebellion against Moses and against God, because if he didn't like how Moses was doing it, Moses was just doing what God said. And it didn't go well for him. Korah, the ground opened underneath his tents. It sucked down his family. God burnt up the 250 followers where they stood. So there were some descendants of Korah, and here they are in the Psalms. They became great singers and great ministers to their people from their family history and what they knew and their talent as musicians. So the sons of Korah have written Psalm 46. And I kind of want to turn it inside out because the first part, I'm going to bring the first part at the end, but they are suggesting here that the earth might change. The earth will change, and the mountains will slip into the sea. The waters will roar and foam of the sea, and the mountains will quake at the sea's swelling pride. There is an instruction here when this happens, and I think we talk a lot about it. There's a lot of mainstream looking at this from a climate change fear. We are living on an ever-changing earth. It is living. God designed it as a living, changing entity. And so, for one thing, our need for it to stand still and always be the same, always be knowable. That's really what it's about. We want nature to stand still so that we can claim to know it, to define it, and to know it will give us mastery. And God designed it to change so that we can't fix it in our minds or know it entirely, or even if it were to be fixed, honestly, the depth of design and creation would defy our ability to fully know it. But I think the fact that it changes confounds what today's big $ S science wants to do there. And as it changes, there is the intent to, if we cannot define it, if we cannot know it completely, then we need to control people with it by making people afraid. So here the sons of Korah, so this would be descendants, not actual sons of Korah, they are talking about this change, and we see it ever more, maybe more than we did see over the time that has stretched before our ancestors saw perhaps change, but maybe slower change, less dramatic change. I think we can allow for the fact that there are some grains of truth in what the climate change fear and hysteria has latched onto. God promises us that will quicken, that as we move on in the age of the earth and the time of the Gentile, that there will be an ending, that there will come a next time that Jesus will come back. And these signs in nature are critical for us to be watching, but the sons of Korah are talking about them here and giving us instruction. And I wanted to start with this awareness in biblical times that this would be here. And I think the sons of Korah, their family history was that the earth opened and swallowed most of their family, and that fire came and burnt all of these 250 followers of their ancestor. So they know God's creation's power. They know God working through his creation. And I think it's fun that they would be telling us about this and that they would be the ones whose words would resonate for us. They go on to say that the nations will make uproar, the kingdoms will totter. God, it says, he raised his voice and the earth melted. Maybe that's referring back to what they know. Maybe it's referring to what will be. But throughout this, the Lord is making wars cease. He is breaking bows, cutting spears, burning up chariots. And I want to now loop back to what the instruction is here. At the beginning of Psalm 46, it says, God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. We will not fear. They talk about the fact that even though the earth is changeable, they say the river that flows through the city of God never changes. So God is never changing, and his elements as part of where he is and where he is creating from never change. The earth is changing, but we can draw strength and lean on God as our refuge because he is ever changing. He is capable of setting all of these things into motion and being master of them. At the end of this psalm, it says, "Cease striving and know that I am God. I will be exalted." So here is our purpose in the midst of what our time and our culture is attempting to make a daily fear. I'm hearing now that young men and women that are being raised up inside the climate change hysteria have just given up all agency. Everything is so doomed that there's nothing that they can do. There's no reason in attempting even to live their life or in some cases even take care of the earth because it's doomed and we might as well not bother. And we can use all the plastic we want and we can live in a throwaway society because we're all past the doom clock time, and so none of it matters. That is not the way that God expects us to be living our lives. We are not meant to be in fear, and we are not meant to give up living the life that we were given. Every one of our lives is purpose-filled, and we are intended to walk in God's way and listen to him and carry out his intentions for us and for those around us. So even as we see all of this happening, what we're supposed to do instead of fear, and I talked about this yesterday, fear fills us with cortisol. Fear, we are not designed to carry fear. We are not supposed to carry fear because we have a God that designed all of this, was the architect, and has it all in his hand. So we are not intended to cause ill health in our body by carrying the fear that is of the world. We are intended to carry the strength of leaning on God as our stronghold, our place of shelter, our safety. So even with all of this happening around us, we do not need to fear. It says cease striving, and I looked up strive, and it says to devote serious effort or energy, to struggle in opposition. We don't need to fight against the change. We can accept that the change is here. It does not mean that we do not continue to carry out God's commandments, which are to be good stewards of the earth and the animals and our own body, the temple. We do not give up on God's commandments because his time is coming, because the earth is coming to its inevitable place that God designed it to get to. It is important that we continue to walk in God's way and trust him and do not carry fear. But striving and fighting in opposition, trying to fight nature, trying to fight God's design, that is a waste of time and energy, and it is absolutely contributing to a lot of people's ill health. Psalm 46 here is definitely something worthy of unpacking in light of today, and even in looking at these gentlemen that have a lived experience in their family. What better people for God to put in place to send this message? Even though the earth is powerful, even though it changes, even though it can be scary, our fear should be of God, not of his creation. And our strength then and our comfort comes from the same place. I pray that God is blessing you today with curiosity to dig inside work like this. I pray that he is blessing you with song and creativity and a distinct lack of fear. And I pray that I see you back here to dig into the Word again on another day. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with a friend. And I'm always interested in hearing what God is laying on your heart. So drop me a rating or review, or join the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Dawn Combs Really.